Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be showing you how I made this simple shift dress. It is a shift dress with gathers at the hem. This tutorial is beginner friendly. It is easy to follow and understand, and you can make it in less than an hour. If this is something you'd like to know more about, please keep on watching and let's get started. If you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please hit the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so you will get notified anytime I upload a new video. I have my Ankara fabric here, and I have 2 yards of Ankara fabric, and I have 1 yard of this plain fabric. So you can decide to mix the style and you can decide not to mix it. It depends on your preference. I'll be cutting the front and the back together. My fabric is folded into 4. The way I folded it, it is not equal. The part I want to use for the zip allowance for the back is where I am marking now. You can see that with the way I folded it, I have excess on the side. The part I have excess will serve as the back of the dress. That is where I want to use for the back, but the folded edge on top will serve as the front. I hope you understand what I mean. So I have marked my zip allowance of 1.5 inches all through now. And the next thing I want to do now is just to mark a line across the top of the fabric, and that line will serve as the starting line. I just mark 1 inch from the top of the fabric, and that line will serve as the starting line. I am using a red chalk. I am just trying to make it visible on the fabric. So that is why I am marking it continuously, so that it is visible on the fabric. So I have my zip allowance by the side, and from this folded edge, that is where I will start marking from. That folded edge will be the center of the front, and that is where I will start my marking from. And that is for the chest line. And I'm just connecting with a straight line. Also, from the top now, I'll go ahead and mark the waistline, which is at 16 inches for the waistline, and I'll just connect with a straight line. I'll mark the hip line, which is at 24 inches, and I'll connect with a straight line. The last vertical measurement I'll be marking is from the shoulder to the full length of the dress. But for this style, since we'll be having gathers at the hem, you have to deduct the length of the gathers from the full length of the dress. The full length of the dress I am working with is 40 inches, and I want the length of the gathered part to be 12 inches. That means I am going to deduct 12 inches from the 40 inches, and that will give me 28 inches. The full length I am marking on the fabric now is 28 inches. The next thing now is to start with the horizontal measurements, and I'll start by marking the shoulder measurements divided by 2 plus 0.5 inch for seam allowance. I'll mark it on the shoulder line and the chest line, and I'll connect with a straight line. Next, I'll go in to mark the neck width and the neck depth. For the neck depth for the back, I'll use 1 inch, while for the front, I'm going to use 3 inches. And for the neck width, I'm going to use 3.5. I'll use my curve to connect the neckline. From the shoulder measurement, I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slant, and I'm just going to connect with a straight line to the neck width. From the shoulder slant, I'll get the midpoint, and at the midpoint, I'll make a mark there. Now, I'll go in with the bust measurement divided by 4, and I'm just going to make a mark. I'll come in with my curve now to connect all those three. I'll come in with my curve now to form the armhole. On the waistline, I'll mark the waist measurements divided by 4, and I'm going to add 1 inch allowance for ease because it is a shift dress. And on the hip line, I'm also going to mark the hip measurements divided by 4 plus 1 inch allowance for ease. On a shift dress, you need to add ease to your measurement. You don't have to make it tight. The next thing is to add sewing allowance all the way down. I am going to add 1 inch allowance and I'll connect it. I am done adding the allowance now. I'll cut it out. While cutting, you have to use the back neckline to cut out the front and the back. Then after cutting, you're going to separate the front from the back and you can now cut out the front neckline. Here, I am marking the zip allowance on the back, and after marking, I am going to separate the front from the back so that we can work on the front neckline. This is what the front neckline looks like, and this is what we are trying to achieve. So remember that I marked 3 inches earlier for the neck depth. From that 3 inches I marked, I am going to go in by 2 inches, and from that 2 inches point, I am going to go down by 2.5. I will use my curve to connect the new shape we have now. And after connecting with the curve, I'm just going to cut it out. This is what we have now for the front neckline. To cut out the pocket for the dress, I'm just going to fold my fabric into 4 and trace out my hand on the fabric. Just the way you see me doing it, I'm just going to trace out my hand on the fabric. I am going to make sure that I have at least 7 inches for the pocket opening, and I'm just going to cut it out. Now I have 4 pieces for the pocket, 2 pieces on both sides of the dress. Placing the back of the dress on the table now, and I'm going to use pins to hold the zip allowance in place. I'm just going to use my pin to close the zip allowance, and after closing, I'm just going to spread it open on the table and place the front of the dress on it. The first thing I am going to do now is to go ahead and join the shoulder together. I'll join the shoulder of both the front and the back together. And after joining the shoulder, I am going to mark the pocket opening on the dress. Now from the armhole, come down by 7 inches and make a mark there. And from that 7 inches mark you made, come down by 7 inches, and that will be for the pocket opening. Notch those points on the fabric so that you can easily place your pocket on it. So I've notched mine now, and I'm just going to bring the pocket and pin it on the opening I have on the fabric. Place your pocket on the opening, right side facing each other. Make it right side facing each other and just pin it down. You are going to pin each of the pieces to both the front and the back, just like you see me doing mine. And after pinning, you're just going to go ahead to the sewing machine and run a stitch on the pocket to stitch it in place. So I'm just going to run a stitch of about ½ inch on the pockets, and I'm just going to stitch it down like so on both sides. I'll do the same thing to the other side of the pocket. Now this is after I was done joining the pockets to the dress, and this is what I have. So the next thing you are going to do now is to go ahead and join your side seam all the way around, following the pocket just the way you see me using my hand to trace it. This is how you are going to stitch. You are going to join from the armhole all the way around the pocket till you get to the hem of the dress. This is after I was done joining, and this is what we have. I went ahead to use the overlocker to finish up the raw edges on the inside. The next thing I'm going to do now is to cut the sleeves. I have my basic sleeve pattern here, and this is what I'm going to use to cut out the sleeve. The basic pattern I have here is my long sleeve pattern, and from the picture you can see that the sleeve is a 3/4 sleeve. So the first thing I'm going to do now is to mark my 3/4 length. The length of the 3/4 I'm working with is 16 inches, and that is what I am marking on the pattern now. In case you don't know how to draft a basic sleeve pattern, I am going to put the link in the description box so that you can watch the video I made on how to draft and cut a basic sleeve. Now I am just going to fold the pattern on the marking I made at the 16 inches. I'll fold my fabric into 4 and place my pattern on it. This sleeve is going to have a 1-inch band. That is why I marked the pattern at 16 inches. The actual 3/4 length is 17 inches, but because it is going to have a 1-inch band, that is why I marked 16 inches. Here I am just using pins to secure the pattern with the fabric, just to hold the pattern in place with the fabric. And at the hem of the sleeve, I'm just going to come out by 2 inches. I am coming out by 2 inches because I want a bit of gathers at the hem of the sleeve. Now I am just going to cut it out. I'll separate the pattern from the fabric now, and I'm just going to notch the center of the sleeve. I have cut out my sleeve band and it is 3 inches in length, but I folded it into 2 here. That is why I am having 1.5 inches. I'll measure it now and I'll be having 1.5 inches. That is because I folded it into 2. So you are going to cut 2 of that for both sleeves. The length of the band depends on your round sleeve measurement. You are going to use your round sleeve measurement to cut it out. Get the midpoint of the sleeve now, notch the midpoint. I'm also going to notch the midpoint on your basic sleeve. So on that midpoint is where you're going to attach. Just place the midpoint together and pin it down like so. You're going to have a little bit of gathers on the main sleeve so that it can fit into the sleeve band. You are going to repeat the same process for the other sleeve. I am done joining the band to the basic sleeve here, and this is what we have. The next thing is to close the side of the sleeve. Measure the armhole on your dress, and whatever measurement you have is what you are going to place on your sleeve. So you are going to place the same measurement on your sleeve and make a mark where the measurement stops. And at the hem, you are also going to measure your round sleeve measurement, and that is what you are going to use to stitch the sides of the sleeve. So I'll go over to the sewing machine and do that now, and I'll bring it back. I am done fixing the sleeve to the dress now, and this is what we have. I am going to flip the dress to the wrong side now. After flipping to the wrong side, I am placing the back of the dress on the table now, and I am going to mark the zip length. I am marking 20 inches as the zip length, and the remaining space I have there, I'm just going to go over to the sewing machine and stitch it close. The next thing I am going to do now is to finish up the neckline. I cut out this black fabric for the small design we have in front of the dress. The width is 1.5 inches and the length, you can cut out any length so far it goes round the small parts we have on the neckline in front, not the entire neckline. By the time I'm done fixing it, you will understand what I mean here. You are going to fix it to the dress the same way you use a bias tape. I'll go over to the sewing machine now and do that. This is after I was done stitching, and this is what it is looking like. So you can see that the black does not go through the entire front, just a little bit at the front part there. Now I cut out another piece of fabric to finish up the neckline from the front to the back. So I cut out 2 and I have 1.5 inches in width. Just cut out the length that will be enough to go from one end of the front to the back. And you are going to fix it to the neckline the same way I fixed the black. Is the same way I'm going to fix this part also. So just pin it around the neckline, and after pinning, you're going to go over to the sewing machine and stitch it to close the neckline. I am done with the neckline here, and this is what it is looking like. You can go ahead and press your dress properly. You can also press the neck area so that it relaxes well. Now the next thing I want to do is to fix the gathered part to the dress. Measure out what you have there. Measure it from one end all the way around, and whatever you get, you are going to cut times 2 in width for the gathered parts. I have already cut out mine, and this is it here. The length I have there is 12 inches, and I have cut out enough that will go around for gathers. I am going to go over to the sewing machine to join both sides of the 2 pieces I cut out. I'm going to join both sides together so that I can have one piece. After joining, I'll fold the hem and also run gather stitch at the top. I'll run a loose stitch at the top, and I'll bring it back and show you. This is after I was done joining. I have hemmed the down part, and I've also run a gather stitch at the top. So I'm just going to pull the 2 top thread here. I'm just going to pull it to form the gathers. So this is what I am going to do now. I'll keep pulling till I get the desired width that will fit into the down part of the dress. I am done pulling the gathers here, and this is what we have. I am just going to attach it to the down part of the dress, but the way I'm going to fix this is different from joining a normal dress. You are going to place the wrong side of the white fabric on the right side of the Ankara fabric. That is how you are going to stitch it. The wrong side of the white fabric on the right side of the Ankara fabric. I am just going to run a stitch all the way around the fabric. But first, I am going to pin it down so that it will be easy when I go over to the sewing machine. I am done stitching here, and this is what we have. You can see the way the inside is neat and the outside is also neat. The remaining thing for me to do on this dress is to fix in the zip at the back. If you have watched up to this point and you have not yet subscribed to my channel, kindly subscribe now. I'll go over to the sewing machine and fix my zip, and that will be all on this dress. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please click the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. Please turn on your notification bell so you will get notified anytime I upload a new video. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.